Now we're ready to talk about putting together our puzzle box. There are lots of pieces in this puzzle box, as you can tell by starting to look around it. So what we want to do is I'm going to open up this bag and show you a couple of things that you can put aside. And then we're actually going to change the angle on the camera so you can look down and see all of the pieces of wood as we separate it out. So first, open the bag. And we're going to pull out the hardware, set it aside. I've also got this one little rectangle of paper that you can set aside. We're going to use those when we put them together. And then we have this bag that says warning magnets. If you are a child, it actually has 4 magnets in it, 2 thick ones and 2 thin ones. Take these, hand them to your parents, get them stuck to the refrigerator somewhere you won't lose them, and they're up and out of the reach of anybody young in your family. That's the very first thing to do. Make sure you're very careful with those magnets as you set them aside. And now we're going to stop, flip the camera over, and then you'll be able to see the pieces and parts as we lay them out for you. Now that you've got your magnets somewhere safe, we're going to start to look at the pieces and parts that are actually in your bag. We've got the hardware out of the way, the magnets out of the way. You've got one more little bag in here. This contains parts and a couple of other little pieces that we want to make sure we don't lose. So I'm going to pull these out and we'll sort them away. You should have 4 little rectangles like this, and we can put those on the side. We'll use them in just a minute to finish up our top and bottom wrappers. Got 2 slightly bigger pieces. We need those as well. Don't think they're just trash and you're going to put them away. Then you've got different sizes of hearts. I've got 4 big hearts. Those will become feet for your pieces. I've got a set of 3 medium ones, and then it looks like I've got 4 more smaller ones here. So put the hearts away. You're definitely going to want to decorate those all up, and as we put our piece together to see how it goes together, you'll see what I mean. Then you can just dump out the rest of the box, and you're going to have all kinds of pieces in it. One more pair of hearts that you want to use, and I'm going to go set these right here so they're on their side, and we can have them ready when we're ready to decorate it. You've got a bunch of little pieces like this that are strips, and they're labeled either B or T. Let's put those aside for now, see if you can find all of those. And then we have parts for 2 boxes, an inner and an outer box. So the easiest pieces to tell are going to be these ones that say bottom and top. Those are outer box pieces, and to go along with that bottom and top, you will also have 2 sides. The way you know for sure that you've got the sides for this box is they've got long edges in them, not just little short cutouts like we normally would have if we were just putting 2 layers of wood together. Plus another one that's got these nice long cutouts on it. Again, that's our end piece for that box. That's going to get paired with one of these 2 pieces with holes in it. Notice that this piece has the holes slightly farther apart than the other one does. We want the one with the holes farther apart. Those are going to get put together like this, and you want to validate it. You can just look and make sure you can actually see light through the pieces as you put them together. So that's all pieces for the outer box. So what we have left should be our pieces for our inner box. First, we have the base for the inner box. Then we have 2 pieces that are sides, and we'll show you how those go together when we're ready to assemble it. But you can know that the one that says Steamy Tech is an outside edge, so if you want to decorate the other outside edge, then you're going to want to decorate the side that has the little cutouts to match the Steamy Tech side if you were putting it together. And the reason you need to do that is that when we finish putting it together, we're going to end up putting that piece on top of it. So that little piece is also a top part of our box. Then we have the ends. One end has 2 big holes in it, plus 2 little divots cut out for magnets. So that's the first end. That's the end that goes inside the box. Notice that this piece and the sides all have nice flat surfaces on them. And then the other end, because we need a way to fasten that little piece on top, has cutouts on both sides of it, screw holes on it, and we should have a little piece that'll be able to fasten to it that's exactly the same size as it, plus a piece that's a little bit bigger to put on it, again, screw holes all the way through to line those up and make them really easy to put together. So now we want to figure out what these decoration surfaces are on the top and the bottom of the box. So first, separate the pieces that have T's on them from the pieces that have B's on them. This is all good practice for these things. I'm not sure I've made a project in a long time that has quite this many pieces in it. Oops, that's a B. This is a T. That's a B. B, 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 T, T, B, T. So then you're going to put them together in order. And the only reason we need to do this is so you can kind of get a sense for how they look and how they're going to look when you put them together so you know what you want to do for decorating. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Now, this is where it gets cool. Those little rectangles that we use, aren't going to use at all. Let's put the B side together. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And now we have 4 more pieces. So the first puzzle fun to have is which piece goes on which side. Now I know I've got a little divot, tink, going here. So I'm going to put that on the little divot that lines up, and we'll put this over here so I know those are part of the bottom of the box. That means these other 2 pieces must be part of the top of the box. And they really are apart for a reason. That's going to give us this ability to make these hidden pieces. But you want to know where they are. And the way we're going to put the hearts on top of them, if you want to make this all line up and look pretty, is this heart's going to go here just like so. If you're talented enough to do that upside down. And then we're going to take a couple of our smaller hearts and put them over these pieces here, like that. And those 4 big hearts I talked about earlier will end up being attached here, 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 and here. But the one thing to remember when you're doing that is that we're going to be able to pull these 2 pieces out from underneath it. So you're also going to need to make sure you decorate, and this is going to go on top like so. So you're going to want to make sure you decorate all of this as well to give it thematic completion. And then the same thing will happen over here, although we'll leave that heart attached. So when the box is open, you'll actually be able to see these pieces completely as well. So just make sure when you're decorating, you get all of those pieces decorated. And then you can see from my completed box that I've got hearts glued to the side. You can decide what pattern you want to decorate the rest of those hearts on and how you want to put them on the box. Maybe you're going to want to put them on the ends or other places, but it's really completely up to you in terms of where the other hearts, the cutouts that we've given you go. So now go away, decorate, sand. If you sand the inside pieces, if you look at how this inside box goes, it's going to slide along the edge. So you want to make sure you sand the inside pieces for the inside box, and you probably on the outside box also want to do a little bit of sanding just to make that go nice and smoothly in and out of the box so it doesn't make evil noises as well. And once you've done all of that, then come back to the video and we'll look at how to assemble it. So while you've been away decorating, I've gone ahead and opened up my screw bag. I've got 2 short screws, 2 longer screws, and 4 nuts, you'll see. And my magnet bag, which has in it 2 thick magnets and 2 thin magnets. So we're going to start first with the hardest part of this whole project, which is putting the magnets in the end pieces. So from your little box, what you want to find is the piece with the holes in it. That's going to be with the holes etched in it. And then from the big box, we want to find the 2 pieces, one of them that has the 4 holes in it, and the other big one that matches it where the holes can go through and be lined up. So what I want to do first is we want to glue these two pieces together, and I'm just going to use my short screws here as a little bit of a placeholder to make sure that they get lined up right when I put them together. So if you put them in, lay it down, lift up your top box, and now I can glue these two sheets together easily. And we'll go ahead and do that. Make sure the edges line up nicely when you're doing it. So that's all perfect and good. Make sure it stays lined up and let that dry a little bit. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put our thin magnets into this piece. Now we want to make sure the alignment is right. And if you haven't played with magnets, you won't know this, but if you have, you will notice that if you try to make them go back to back, they don't work very well at all. It's all about magnet polarity. So hold them with the thick magnets on the bottom, and we're going to start with putting these two thin magnets into this piece and getting them glued very well and giving them plenty of time to dry. So we're going to stick them in the hole. Oops, see what happens when you play with magnets? I want this to go the same direction, so that makes that really easy. And then I'm going to actually use the tail end of my screwdriver to pound them in and make sure they stay pretty flat. You could have pulled the hole out a little bit better, anything you want to do, but you want to make sure those get in nice and flat and give them plenty of time to dry. Drying those pieces is your first key to success. So pause the videotape, wait patiently, come back in a few minutes when you're sure those are nice and dry and they're not going to separate out on you. All right, now that you're sure your magnets are nice and dry, and you can test that by putting your stack of two magnets on top of them and making sure you can't lift them out, we're going to stick one of the thick magnets on one side and one of the thick magnets on the other side. And then we're going to put some glue into this hole, onto your nice double-sized thick hole here that we cut through the wood on this other side. And we're going to flip this over, and we're going to drop those pieces in, push down really nicely, and then we can slide the two sets apart, and we're going to let that set dry well till the point that we're sure it's not going to come apart. But that sliding them off means you're not going to lose them. If you have a problem and something flips out of the way, then it's a challenge. The other thing to be aware of is if you want to make your box easier for people to open and not have people have to struggle with it at all, then don't put the magnets in at all. It's completely up to you, but the magnets do give you this nice pull on the end of the boxes to make them not just slide apart in your hands. So that's what we're using the magnets for. We've got them in the boxes. They're nice and secure, all ready to go. So now we can start on the next step of the assembly. So the one you just did was this double thick one on the outer box, so I'm going to put that aside, and now we can get started. So we now need to put together the other end. So the other end are the three pieces of wood, small, medium, and large, that we want to glue together. So I'm going to take my longer screws in this case, put them in the first one. You don't have to glue these pieces of wood together. There's really not any need to since we'll glue the screws in, but just for sake of completeness, I'm going to put a little bit of glue on here. Glue that layer down, make sure it's nice and looking nice and square. Put my top layer on. Glue it down, make sure it's looking nice and square. And then go ahead and put a dot of glue on the end of both those screws. And screw the nuts onto the top of that. If you put your finger on the back, you can hold it. You shouldn't even need a screwdriver to do it. Although you're welcome to use your screwdriver if you want to, just to make sure it's really, really tight. This one's being a little stubborn, so I'm going to go ahead and tighten it down some more. And we should be good to go from there. There we go. So I've got two nicely squared, even front and a back for our piece. Now the other thing to keep in mind when we assemble this is the magnets are going to be on the outside of the box, right? Because we want to make sure these two pieces will snap together nicely like that. So the magnets need to go on the outside. This little piece is going to go on the inside. So let's put the inside box together. We're going to start with this end, make sure the magnets are out. I'm going to put glue across the tabs here, as well as a little bit of glue on these teeth on this side. I'll go ahead and move this a little more into the center of the screen as we build it. And set that up and push it in. Now it's going to be really wibbly and wobbly. So from the direction I'm doing this, the next trick is you want to make sure that these little cutouts are on the opposite end from the magnets. So magnets facing out. This says Steamy Tech on it, so we'll do the Steamy Tech side first. That'll give us a good place to aim. And I'm going to put glue again on these tabs here, as well as on the tabs on my inner box itself. I'm much more a fan these days of screwing boxes together, but the way these boxes go, we can't screw them, so we're going to have to use glue to build these tabs boxes. Put that piece in. See? I'm a klutz too. Put that piece in. Try this again. Hold it in place while the glue has a second to dry. We'll let that glue have plenty of time to dry while we hold it here. Only takes a few seconds. Now I've got that side of the box on, and we can do the same thing on the other side. Glue on the tabs. Now, make sure with this one that the tab is on the front. If you flip it around this way, it's not going to build. So make sure that this little tab is on the front corner, away from the magnet inside. And we'll go ahead and put a little bit of glue on the insides of these surfaces the same way. Put this in place here. And we're now ready to glue on the front of the box. So we can do the same thing. We can put a little bit of glue on the insides here, all the way across and around. Plus on the inside of these tabs on our box itself. But if you want to make sure you've got a lot of glue on, you can actually put a little bit of glue on the wood ends itself that those ends are going to bury into, since we've got a layer in front of it to glue it all together. So now we've got all of those pieces in. And we can slot it all together, push it in and hold it, and we have one more piece to put in on our small box. The last piece to put in on our small box is going to be this top layer. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue across the top here. I'm also going to, again, do a little bit of drops inside. And then for this one, we also want to put glue on these tabs here. And I'm going to do one last little drop of glue inside on that surface and that surface, just to make sure that this has a nice sturdy hold inside the box itself. This lip is going to be our attachment point for the inside of the box to hold it together. And we want to make sure that stays well. You can also, once you've done that, squeeze the ends right here to make sure those two pieces get nice and sturdy attachments as well. And once you've done that, your inside box is completed. And we'll come back in a moment and work on the outside box. Now that your inside box is together, let's put together your outside box. You've got your magnets here. So now we can actually put these screws in that are going to hold these two pieces of wood together just to make sure they're firmly attached. And because I like how a little bit of screw hardware looks in a box like this, so we're going to put a little hardware in it. Put your screws in, put a little glue on your nuts and tighten them down. That means nobody can pull apart these two pieces of wood. Nut in, finger on it to hold it. Dot of glue. Put the nut over that. Tighten that nut down, and now we're in good shape. And you'll notice you should be able to make that attach to your inside box either direction at this point. So we're in good shape with that box as well. So now let's find the piece labeled bottom and flip it over this way. This is the end of this box, but because I've got this extra layer here, I can't just set it in here to glue it together. I'm going to make sure that I push it up to glue it. So we're going to put a little bit of glue on my tabs, as we did with assembling the other box. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on these tabs as well, just to make sure this gets nice and attached. And I'm even going to put a drop of glue on those surfaces. And we'll start with getting the bottom and the back put together. Give that a second to hold. Once that's in good shape, now we can do the two sides. When we do this box, we want the flat side of the sides to be facing the front. So we're going to put them together like that. Repeat the process. Glue, glue, glue all along the tabs. Little bits of glue on that first layer here to make sure that all stays nice and attached. We'll get this first side into place. You should have a series of tabs sticking out the bottom of the box once you've done that. And we're going to use those with those little strips that you decorated up a few minutes ago. So my one side's attached. Now let's do that on the other side. Again, you're making sure that that flat surface is away from the back of the box, so we have a nice smooth front on our box. Now, be assured, we did not invent the idea of the puzzle box. Lots of people have done them. There are tons of patterns on the internet for other kinds of secret puzzle boxes. But I took some of the best of those ideas and pulled them together to make ours in a way that I think is a little more buildable and is very pretty and perfect for you to use. You can web surf around and find all kinds of patterns for puzzle boxes, including ones you can make out of popsicle sticks and all kinds of other really easy things. Finally, we're ready to put the top on this box. So it's going to go on just like so. So back to my putting on glue on my box. All the tabs all the way around it. Make sure the words are out so we're in the right direction. And push that down. And we've now got a box with tabs sticking out the top and the bottom, and we're ready for our final assembly. All right, now we're ready to do our final assembly. I'm going to take my hearts off of my pieces here, get them out of the way for now. And we can start with the top side of the box and our pieces that are labeled T8 through T1. And I always am a firm believer in test and test and test to glue. So your little tabs that are sticking out are going to go out on the tab side here. And you should be able to pull all these pieces in, except the two little ones, and set them nicely on top of your box. Make sure you do this and that these holes right here are completely clear and lined up. Now, the other thing that's going to be tricky here is we need to make sure this hole lines up nicely, but if you ended up with a little bit of space between a couple of other pieces, wouldn't matter too much because we want to make this look a little rough so nobody knows exactly where the holes are that we're coming to. So, start on one end or the other, whichever end suits your fancy. Run glue down, and I'm going to start with T1 here. Put the glue on T1 and glue T1 into place. I don't want it to stick out past the end, and I definitely don't want anything sticking into that hole, though, because we want to make sure this is easy to slide in and out. We're ready for T2. Not the Terminator, top 2. Top 3. Make that nice and straight. Still got enough alignment space, even if I push that out a little bit. Top 4. You're starting to run out of pieces now. This is a good feeling, isn't it? Top 5. Top 6. Top 7. And last but not least, top 8. And I now have all of my pieces glued down. Yes, I can move that around a little bit. And my top is done. I'm going to flip this over and repeat that process on the bottom. The thing that keeps getting me in trouble is you got to make sure you've got your indents on the right end. So we'll do this again with the B's. 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And we'll take a minute and repeat that process with gluing. Now, obviously, you don't have to do it my way. You could put them on one at a time, but I feel much better about the effort of having tested and making sure that they all really fit into place. And I'm going to give myself a little bit of width here to make it look like there might be a hole there or some trigger there. I'll go to 5 here. 4, and make sure I've got no rough edges around the seam. B3 is next, and then B2. And finally, we're ready for B1. And we have an inner box and an outer box. And once that all dries up nice, you'll notice that I can take the top side and I can slide this box in. And it's really easy to open because I can grip this hole and this hole. So now we're going to do a little bit of work to make that a little more disguised. So that's what our hearts on the top and the bottom of the box are for, is to make this a little disguised. So I'm going to start on the bottom, and I'm going to show you how we want to put our bottom together. These two big rectangles that we were talking about, That one didn't go where I wanted it to. I got a little bit of coming out there. Put another drop of glue in that. Come on. Get that glued where it needs to be so my hole doesn't break up. Give that a second to dry. What we're going to do is we're going to take this piece and we're going to slide it in here and align it and glue it onto that. So now the trick is making sure you don't glue your boxes together. Very carefully, and I will only put some in the middle of this hole here. But I do want to get some on the outer edge there. I'm going to put this next piece on here like so. And that's one half of it. We can do that same thing on the top. And because we left this little lip here, we have a space to attach this top screw. So don't make it fall into the box. Go ahead and put it down. Glue it on nicely. And now I'm getting that nicely glued onto that top edge there. Such a way that we're holding them in place, and we've got a piece on the bottom and a piece on the top. But it's still pretty easy to open. So let's do the next thing to make it a little harder and a little more disguised. And you actually earlier got a little piece of cardboard. We're going to open your little piece of cardboard up. It should be exactly the same size as your bottom. If it's not, go ahead and trim it, but it shouldn't be a problem at all. I'm going to put glue all the way around this surface now because we're actually going to use cardboard as a layer, and I don't want to have the cardboard not fall apart in any way. So go ahead and put your cardboard layer on. Glue that in nicely. Make sure that dries well. And now I'm going to flip my outer box over, slide this together, and you can see what the next thing is. Notice that I got a little bubble here, and I want to make sure my little bubble, my little heart shows up. So I'm going to put my two pieces in. Next, I'm going to glue in my two pieces to make my little heart show up. And notice that I've got a little bit of extra thickness, and I should be just over the surface of my neighbors by putting in that cardstock. If, for some reason, in the way you glued it together, you're not either exactly flat or a little taller, and a little taller is always the goal, you can cut another piece of very thin paper or cardboard and glue another layer in at this point. Because what we're going to do is we're going to take one of these feet and we're going to glue it to this outer layer. So make sure you're taller. I'm going to pull this apart, and notice it's much harder even just with those sitting in there. Put glue on my cardboard again, all the way across. Carefully line those up so they don't go past the hole. And if you close the box at this point, it's going to be pretty tough to open. You've still got a lip on the other side, but it's going to be much harder to unlatch because of that. But we do want to make sure it's going to go together nicely. Pull it apart. And now I'm going to glue on my heart. So I can use this alignment line here to just glue this heart right here as decoration. And as a perfectly good lever for opening the box. So since I have small hands, I had to make it something that was nice and comfortable enough for somebody even with small hands to do. So I've glued the bottom piece on here like so. And I should be able to slide that all the way in. And once that heart comes out, I can pull it apart pretty easily. And now I want to repeat that same process on the top with my two top pieces. So you'll see my two top pieces want to go in like this. And this is the tricky part, getting them in the right pattern. They're going to go like this and like that to finish that heart off for us. So we can add a little bit of glue here and here. put your two top pieces on. Make sure that gets nice and dry, and it'll still slide in and out nicely. And now, if somebody wanted to open the box, they can look at the front and pretty easily see how to open the box. So let's do a little bit more disguising on our box to make it harder to open. So we're going to go ahead, and on the top, I've got these two big hearts that I want to glue on here to make it harder to see. So we'll add some glue here and put on this big heart. And I cut them in half just because, in two pieces, just because I figured it was a little bit easier to decorate if they were two different pieces. And if you want to do something different with the two of them, you could align it nicely on your lines underneath. I'm going to put some glue on here for my smaller pieces. And glue on my smaller hearts on the top. Flip this over to the bottom, and we need to glue on our three other big hearts for our feet. One, two, and three. The fourth one, remember, is already there on the bottom of our box. Flip this back over, and now all that's left is whatever you want to do with hearts on the side. So I'm going to do big to little on this end. So there's a big one. And maybe I'll do another big one, biggish one here. And one more little one up here. But you completely can decide how you want the side decorations to look. And then we'll do these in order, and we'll do a big one. And the only challenge on putting the hearts on the side is remembering what's top and what's bottom. Because if you do them upside down, you'll be very unhappy with yourself. Heart, 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 and I'm going to put space maybe? Yeah, I'm going to put one more little one right here, just for good measure. Write names of your kids on them, or whatever you want to do. And once those are glued on, your box is finished and ready to use as a gift. So that's the top. Slides together like that, clicks into place, and is all set and hidden. And you'll see who is able to figure out how to open your box. And then for the inside, you can decorate it however you want to. If you have fabric or foam or a jewelry box of some kind, anything you want to, you can put on the inside, and it makes the perfect way to give your Valentine a gift. Thanks so much. Bye.